What is up, everybody? This is the Fantasy Baseball Show, and I am your host, Sean Nugent. A little bit of housekeeping before I get going into the video. The league that I'm doing for everyone for the channel is live in the description, the Fantasy Baseball League. It will be the first link in the description underneath the video. Click that link, free league, click it, join it, make your team name. I'm going to get in touch with everyone, try to get something going. I know we can't really set a draft date yet with the lockout still going, but I'm excited to play with you guys. It can be roto, it can be points. We'll all talk about that in a group chat, get it going. But please join the league, it's free. And I'll get in touch with everyone as soon as possible. And let's talk about second base. So first, before I talk about who I like at second base, I think it's pretty important to just bring up a couple guys that are on my do not draft list. As I've always said, I think more important than figuring out who you're going to draft is figuring out who you will not draft in a panic draft, especially if you're not doing a long 4-hour clock draft. If you're doing a minute 30, 2-minute draft, there's going to be points where you're sitting there and 3 of the guys in your queue, maybe you're waiting to get a closer or a starting pitcher or a third baseman or a shortstop, and 2 of those guys, 3 of those guys, they just get picked in a row. Boom, boom, boom. You get sniped, triple sniped. And you're going to be in that draft room like, oh my God, who did I draft? You have to have a list of guys that in that scenario, you're just not drafting them. For me, there might be some guys that I don't like. These aren't just guys that I don't like or I'm wary of. These are guys that I'm not drafting based on their ADP and where you'll get them around in the draft. So 1, Marcus Semien at pick 34. 2, Javi Baez at pick 63. 3, Jazz Chisholm at pick 77. 4, Tommy Edman at pick 84. 5, Chris Taylor at pick 139. And once we get over this deep, do not draft kind of becomes meaningless. But there's one more guy I'm really scared to say, but it's Max Muncy. If we get Max Muncy at pick 147, if Max Muncy, we get good news that he's ready to go for the season. He was on MLB TV or something a couple weeks ago, MLB Network, and he was talking to one of the reporters, and it seemed like worrisome about his elbow. I think I talked about it in the first base video. But Max Muncy, you can get him at second base, will be the best value. A big if he's on the field to play. I am worried he's going to get Tommy Johns. Obviously, he left about 4 or 5 days before the postseason started. He got hit or something covering the bag at first. So Max Muncy, I cannot in good faith draft him in any of my teams because you can't draft a guy who might not play for the season. And I know I could be over-exaggerating, but I could see a scenario where he realizes he needs to get Tommy John surgery and he's just unable to play. Now that's at pick 150. I think it's kind of redundant to have do not drafts past then because you might need to get who you can get. I will say I am scared about the playing time from Eduardo Escobar going to the Mets. I see him in a similar role as Villar. He'll get good numbers, but I don't see him playing every single day. All the Mets guys, with the exception of Starling Marte and Pete Alonso and Lindor, besides those three guys in the Mets, I think they're going to heavily play the matchups. They're going to do a lot of rest days. I don't think you're going to be drafting Dom Smith, J.D. Davis, Eduardo Escobar, Jeff McNeil. McNeil's going way later than those guys, but they're all going to be splitting time. I don't think any of those guys eclipse 110 games played, so that's something to keep an eye on with the Mets. Don't assume that Escobar just has the third base job because I don't think it's going to be like that in Citi Field this year for the New York Mets. So, as I said, Chris Taylor, Tommy Edman, Jazz Chisholm, Marcus Semien, and Javier Baez. I'm not drafting them. I will go into a little bit more of why I'm not drafting them, but let me just focus on the guy going at pick 1.6, Trey Turner, first time being second base eligible. Not much to say about him. Really, really solid player. He's going to get you 20-plus home runs with a 280 average and hopefully 30 steals with a low end of 20. But you can put those counting stats in the book. He's the kind of guy I like to draft around. I will not be drafting Tatis, even though they're going around the same thing. I think him and Tatis are 1-2. Yep. Oh, actually, Turner has now become the consensus number 1 pick on all positions. So I think that's because the shoulder concerns for Tatis. I have a lot more optimism that Turner will not miss a lot of time compared to Tatis. But that's shortstop. I won't get into that. But Turner's basically a guy that you can play in your draft round. Say you need 60, 70 stolen bases to finish middle of the pack, which is what you should be trying to do. You shouldn't try to win. You shouldn't try to becoming number 1 overall in stolen base in your league. I don't think that's a sound strategy because you're going to be lacking in so many other categories. Say you try to be first in stolen bases and you draft Witt and you draft Starling Marte. Those guys combined will maybe give you 25 home runs. So that's one player worth of home runs. You're going to be constantly trying to make up at it. Then you're going to draft Joey Gallo to make up for the home runs, and your batting average is going to suffer. You're just going to be playing catch up the whole draft. You should shoot for about 60 to 70 stolen bases. You don't want to get, you don't want to have 20 stolen bases. You want to have a Trey Turner, then you get a couple other guys that'll get 15 to 20, and you'll be good. So that's why I like Trey Turner a lot. Not because I think he's amazing, really, anything specifically, but because Witt's only giving you 10 home runs, maybe 12. Turner's giving you 20, 25, and he could probably have a 30 home run season. He's done it before. Couple less stolen bases than Witt, but he's getting you all those counting stats, and he's helping you in the power department. He's not hurting you by a wide margin. And that's why I'll say this about Witt. Witt's not on my do not draft list, but I'm considering it because what I've noticed from last year, and even last year with the power numbers going back with the rabbit ball not being around, apparently, we didn't see the crazy power numbers we're used to seeing from some guys. But Witt only had 10 home runs or 12 home runs, and I'm just really finding it hard to structure my team with a guy with only 10 home runs. Yeah, he's giving me those 40 steals. I get that part of it, or maybe 40 steals. And I guess that maybe is why it's a big deal, is that when it comes to volatility, a 40 stolen base guy, counting a guy for 40 stolen bases is absurd. But once a guy hits 40 home runs, okay, he might not hit 40 the next year, but he'll probably hit 30. Like Simeon's probably not going to hit 40, 45 next year. Simeon will probably hit 30, unless Texas is a really bad ballpark. And I know he says he's not on my do not draft list. That's more to the fact that I have guys I love going after him that I think will outproduce him. But you're drafting Witt, and you're just at a severe disadvantage in your home run category, and you have to make up that in the whole draft. Going down from Witt, Simeon, as I said, going to Texas, that's not really what concerns me. I'm just more concerned that it was a career year for Marcus Simeon, that he'll never be able to reproduce. And I don't even think the draft price is really that egregious for Marcus Simeon. I think after a guy hits 45 home runs, 115 run, 102 RBI, and 15 stolen bases, not bad. 265 average, great. Only 334 on base, nothing crazy. But after a guy does that, I'm a little apprehensive. Maybe do not draft is a little too much, but for me personally, he is do not draft. And I'm not drafting Javier Baez, going after him either. That's really just a philosophical thing. I play safe more than I play scared. I guess I play scared, which is safe. And Baez is just way too risky of a profile. He did great with the Mets when he got traded. But what I really want to talk about is Jose Altuve going after Baez at Altuve at pick 73. In the past 2 years, in 2020 and 2021, Jose Altuve has led all second basemen in runs, 100 less plate appearances than Marcus Simeon and Whit Merrifield, but more runs than both those guys. 15 less home runs than Simeon. He did spike that 45, so if that normalized back to 35, I think they're going to have similar power output. And it's not even about a one-to-one apples to oranges comparison between Simeon and Altuve. It's more the fact that Altuve is going 30 picks later, and I feel a lot safer in Altuve, especially at that price. Going after Altuve is Jazz Chisholm, and I'll play a devil's advocate for Jazz Chisholm. I'm a little perplexed by not where Jazz Chisholm's going, but more so as to where Edman is going. Jazz Chisholm is going at pick 77. Edman's going to pick 84. Edman only hit 11 home runs last year in 700 plate appearances. Chisholm had 18 and 200 less plate appearances. And Chisholm still had 23 stolen bases even with those less at-bats. So this is not me saying go draft Jazz Chisholm. This is more saying do not draft Tommy Edman. Because if you're looking for steals around pick 70 to 80, then just draft Jazz Chisholm. He's probably going to give you the same amount of steals as Tommy Edman with 10 to 15 more home runs. Lineup's not as good, obviously. The Marlins, I could see them making moves, but it's not as good. Ballpark's not as good as it is in Busch for Tommy Edman. But just take Jazz Chisholm over Tommy Edman. Then going next, right after Jazz Chisholm, is Brandon Lau. That's the guy. Really, the guys I'm liking the most this year on the board, besides Trey Turner, is Brandon Lau, Jose Altuve, and Ketel Marte. Just because I really believe that they're 25 home run guys, and Lau now too with a good average, and you're not paying a crazy price for him. I mean, I don't know why anyone would draft Javier Baez over both those guys. Javier Baez, okay, 18 stolen bases last year. That's worth something. Can't deny that. But the on base is so low, the profile is so risky. I just don't want to take the risk on that, especially if I can get a Trey Turner or a Jose Ramirez or a Bo Bichette, someone that I can count 20, 30 steals on. Going back to the top, I skipped over a guy that's a pretty popular pick, and some guy that I've kind of found myself perplexed on, and that's Ozzie Albies. Ozzie Albies last year, 30 home runs, 20 steals, 100 plus runs, RBI. He's a guy that I don't know if I'm making a mistake drafting on him. The on base really isn't there. 319 is kind of scary. He had a 310 on base. The strikeout rate's not high or anything. It's nothing like that. 30. I think he's a great hitter. He's young, but I'm more so scared if that 20 dips down to 10. If I would rather just take Lau later. Again, Albies is probably a guy I'll find myself drafting, but trepidatiously, and he might be one of the guys I end up panic drafting, trying to fill in my second base early. Now, this is probably where it gets the hardest to draft, and is really why I'm dead set on getting Lau, Marte, or Altuve, because I don't know what to make of Jonathan India, LeMahieu, or Jake Cronenworth. I think all of those guys, especially India, probably has the highest upside after what he's shown his rookie year. But I'm not too certain that I want to risk a top 100 pick on a guy that had a really good rookie campaign. We've seen a lot of guys do that, and he might not be able to repeat it. I'm sure he does, but even if he does, I don't see his draft value moving up too much on the board, as opposed to Lau, Altuve, and Marte, who have been a lot higher in fantasy drafts, and you can count on them probably moving up 2 to 3 rounds come 2023. LeMahieu was a guy that I said last year I didn't want to draft because McNeil was probably going to produce similar results, and McNeil did horrible. He's going 200 picks later. So I guess in a way I was right on LeMahieu, but not for the right reasons and not with the right comparison. So LeMahieu, again, I guess I said he was a lot like McNeil, and he really was like a lot McNeil last year. I mean, I guess McNeil would have liked that to be the case. Still batted .270, only 10 home runs, managed to still get 84 runs, but only 57 RBI. And again, Altuve and Marte both have a way higher stolen base upside, and I would probably rather have India, Edman, and Chisholm than DJ LeMahieu, because if that power doesn't come back, you're drafting a Whit Merrifield type power bat with 30 less steals than Whit Merrifield. So I don't see any reason why LeMahieu is too attractive, maybe outside of the triple eligibility at first, second, and third base. Cronenworth, again, this is a tricky position. Great year last year, 21 homers, 94 runs, 71 RBI, 266 average. I'm not sure really what we're expecting plate appearance-wise. So ATC has over 600 plate appearances. I kind of take the under on that. Only 6 steals, 17 home runs. Really just he's not hitting a lot of power, not stealing really any bases. Kind of a bland, I guess maybe better than LeMahieu, but kind of a bland bat. ATC only has LeMahieu for 14 home runs. So these guys are here. These two guys are going to pick 100, 120. It's kind of why I think you need to get a top 10 second baseman. You probably want to get Turner, Albies, Altuve, Lau, or Marte. You really want to have one of those guys in your draft. Turner, you can play at shortstop. So if you can get Turner, I would probably grab Altuve, Marte, or Lau after that. You really don't want to have to draft really anyone in your whole draft that's getting 15 home runs, less than that, 10 home runs, because you're really setting your team up to fail. And it's funny that LeMahieu and Cronenworth are actually going before Ty France. Ty France picked 138. To me, I thought he showed that he was not a premier bat, but a very, very solid bat, especially with the eligibility he has. He's probably going to be a first baseman now. Last year, in his first full season in the major leagues, Ty France had 18 home runs, 85 runs, 73 RBI, a 291 average, and a 370 on base. So yeah, not 18 home runs, not the craziest power. Still, it was his first full season in the majors, and he had great minor league numbers. I think he hit 20 home runs in half a season in the minors. Even in his 2020 stint, in only 43 games, 305 average, 370 on base. I think he's the kind of guy where you're going to see growth and you're going to see a power growth. And getting to that, there was a guy I liked a lot coming into the past couple years because of how good his minor league numbers were. Where walked more than he struck out, was always a good guy for batting average. Former, I believe, I don't want to say first round draft pick, but I think he was a pretty high up there draft pick. But Luis Urias was kind of a big prospect. Got traded from San Diego in that Trent Grisham deal. And I think he's going under the radar, especially when it comes to counting stats in Roto. This is the guy we're playing in a deeper league, even a 15-team league, and you weren't able to snag one of those guys I'm talking about. If you're at past pick 100 and you don't got a second baseman yet, I'm waiting until Urias at pick 157. Last year, low-key, these aren't sexy numbers, but for anyone that's a consistent Roto player, you'll see why this was so important. Was 23 home runs, 77 runs, 75 RBI, nice little 5-stone base in 150 games, 250 average, only a 344, 344 on base, 250 average, nothing high. But I think that low BABIP, his first year he had last year 2020 he had a 338 BABIP. Last year 280. I can see that BABIP going up to 300, 310. That batting average going up 30 points, and with that I can see on base going to 360, 370. I think this is a guy we're going to be talking a lot about next year. Really good plate discipline, 11% walk rate, 20% strikeout rate. Luis Urias, remember that name, on the Milwaukee Brewers. This is my guy for 2022. This is my breakout, not just at second base, but I think in all of MLB. I know he's going to pick 157. It's nothing deep. He's not like a deep sleeper, but I really do think this is a guy we'll be talking about, maybe in the top 100 with a consistent, 25 home runs, 85 runs, 90 RBI guy. I really do think that Milwaukee will take a liking to him, and I think he will rise up and be a star in that Milwaukee lineup. Moving down the list, it really doesn't get any better. There are some guys that I always have interest in. I always like Gene Segura. Maybe because he's a Mets killer. Again, it's funny because Gene Segura is going at pick 200, and what is Gene Segura giving you that DJ LeMahieu isn't? He had more home runs than LeMahieu last year, less runs, less RBIs, better batting average than LeMahieu, going 100 picks later. So this just kind of contextualizes what I was saying when it comes to being confused as LeMahieu and Cronenworth and those guys going around there. India is a little different. India had 21 home runs, 98 runs, 376 on base. India is a lot like Urias in the way that he showed really good plate discipline. He had 50 to 60 more plate appearances, but Urias had less at bats, more home runs than India. Better plate discipline numbers, and his BABIP was just 40 points lower than India's. Urias easily could have been the Jonathan India of 2021, but he got maybe messed up by his BABIP luck. So that's a comp right there. Those guys will probably be similar guys. India did have 12 steals, Urias 5. Urias is probably only a 7-8 stone base guy max, but India really is mostly a 10 to 12. Nothing crazy. No quick feet really. And that's that. The Gene Segura thing is really what I find interesting about guys like LeMahieu, and really why it seems like we never really learn, do we? We never really learn to avoid. I know it took me a couple of years to learn to avoid. Basically, last year, guys like McNeil, LeMahieu, and I guess it could be Ketel Marte Altuve. It could be the same mistake I'm making twice. Those guys did show years of big power. Maybe that's why Lau is probably the best pick in their first 100 picks for second base, because Lau, his power is not in question. Maybe the average is in question, but the power and thus the runs and RBI are not in question. If you're not dead set on getting steals, then Brandon Lau is most likely your guy to draft. Again, Luis Urias, I think, is a 25 home run hitter, and I think I'll have 80 plus run RBI. Going down the list past Gene Segura, Gavin Lux, not a guy I'm ever gonna really find myself enamored with, but again, he might have some stolen bases in him. Corey Seager leaving that lineup, Gavin Lux is still only projected for 400 plate appearances. So basically, that should tell you what you need to know. If there's one thing, like I said, I think projections are useful for. It's just going down the list and seeing, okay, who's not going to get more than 550 plate appearances? It's really a cutoff at Jazz Chisholm at 556. Colin Wong is only getting 551. Chisholm, I'm surprised, not getting more than that. You're going to need most likely 2 second basemen, if not obviously 2 shortstop with your middle infield spot and some guy on the bench. So I think this is a position with how the power goes down quick. I'm fine with Gene Segura really as my middle infield. I think Gene Segura is kind of what you should shoot for middle infield, and it's just an interesting comparison with 14 home runs and 9 stolen bases last year, 76 runs, only 58 RBI. But good average and a good on base. I thought that he would grow into more power last year. I guess 15 is not bad for him, but it's not the position where you want to be waiting. You're gonna really be struggling if you're gonna wait. The guys I said, really, Luis Urias is probably, and not Luis Urias. Luis Urias is probably the last guy you can take in good faith. He has that spot locked up. I'm not rolling the dice on Brendan Rodgers. Even Ryan McMahon, I'm not really rolling the dice in that. We gynned them every year. They had a decent year last year, but I'm not rolling the dice in them. Like I said, Eduardo Escobar, I don't think he's going to be getting a lot of plate appearances for the New York Mets. I think they're going to be playing a lot of matchups. I think they're going to do good because of it. Can finally rest guys and give guys a mental health day. Gavin Lux, don't dream on these guys. Make sure you have a second baseman within your first 10 rounds, because then you got to grab Urias or Segura, and a 15-teamer, it comes at you fast. Just going down the board, if you have the power locked up, and especially in deep leagues, you're going to have to get one of these guys. If you have the power locked up and you're just worried about batting average, I'm fine with taking Nick Madrigal or Luis Urias on the Twins, or even Jeff McNeil. At 317, I'll take Jeff McNeil, hoping he gets traded and gets full-time at-bats, or someone gets injured and he gets full playing time. But I'm worried about all these guys. He has to split bats with Cano, and then Wilmer Flores, pick 400, is never going to get full at-bats. David Fletcher, good batting average. But notice what all these guys have in common. They're not going to get you, most likely, with the exception of McNeil, who could easily get you 20 home runs. They're not going to get you really any power. And that's something I just want to keep bringing up. Nico Horner, 409. You need to have at least 20 home runs. If a guy's not giving you 20 home runs, you better hope, like Merrifield, he's giving you 40 stolen bases. If he's giving you 20 home runs, he's not giving you any more than 10, 15 stolen bases, unless it's a super deep league or an AL, NL only. You just can't be drafting these guys. Dead set period. I want to make things simpler for myself and for the viewers, because I think we like to all, look at these stats and dream on and who can do this, who can do that. Out of all of these guys going later, McMahon's probably one of your better bets. For power wise, McMahon is probably your best bet after Urias and in between Segura, but that is again dreaming. I mean, 23 home runs, 80 runs, 86 RBI, a good season last year. Could have been fluky. We were all wondering for a while, but at least he's giving you 23 home runs, or hopefully 20 home runs. You can't say the same for even Tommy Edman, all these guys. You can't say the same about 20 home runs. So I'll leave it there. Again, trying to keep it shorter, keep it simpler. Still not a lot. It's still kind of hard to get a sense of playing time with the lack of moves, with these Mets guys, even with these Colorado guys. It's hard to get a sense of where playing time is going to be found, where it's going to be lost. But do not wait at second base. Don't wait until pick 150 to take your first second base. You want to have your first guy locked up. It's a middle infield spot, guys. These guys, it's not outfield where you're going to find a guy hitting 30 home runs at pick 200. Even if you're taking the batting average hit, no one past 200 is going to be hitting 30 home runs at second base. So I'll leave it there. Again, please click the link in the description. Join the league. If you want, send me a message. Tell me, hey, if I don't see it, if I don't send me a message, send me a message on Twitter, Instagram. You have my email's in there. It's all in the link below in the description. Please join the league. I can't wait. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the season starts on time or starts at all. Thank you for watching, and have a good one, guys.